Cell Signaling in Parkinson's Disease by Nina Kozar, Corinne Jacoby, and Ashley Chrysler. There are two types of cell signaling that occur in the body: local signaling and long-distance signaling. In both types of signaling, only specific target cells that can recognize a given signaling molecule will respond to it. Long-distance signaling includes endocrine or hormonal signaling. Local signaling includes paracrine signaling as well as synaptic signaling. Synaptic signaling is where Parkinson's disease comes into place. A nerve cell releases neurotransmitter molecules into a synapse, stimulating the target cell. There are three stages of cell signaling. Step 1 is reception, which is the target cell's detection of a signaling molecule. Step 2 is transduction, which is the series of steps that converts the signal to a form that can bring out a specific cellular response. Step 3 is that specific cellular response. The receptor present in Parkinson's disease is a transmembrane G protein coupled receptor called a D1 dopamine receptor. The receptor works by sensing dopamine outside the cell that triggers the transduction pathways. To activate the receptor, dopamine must bind to it. After the dopamine binds to the receptor, it changes shape and an active G protein binds to it, causing a GTP to displace a GDP on the protein. The G protein activates adenyl cyclase, which converts ATP to cyclic AMP, the second messenger. The CAMP then activates protein kinase. Protein phosphates then catalyze the removal of phosphate groups from the proteins, causing the proteins to return to an inactive state. The phosphate group is then transferred to the next protein kinase in the chain, and this continues until finally the transcription factor is phosphorylated. The transcription factor being activated causes transcription to occur in the neuron of the striatum. In neurons with Parkinson's disease, this pathway never occurs because the dopamine never reaches the receptors.
Recepción. The error that causes Parkinson's disease occurs during reception. Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a degenerative progressive disorder that affects nerve cells in deep parts of the brain called the basal ganglia and the substantia nigra. Nerve cells in the substantia nigra produce neurotransmitters dopamine and are responsible for delaying messages that plan and control body movement. The dopamine-producing nerve cells of the substantia nigra begin to die off in some individuals. When 80% of the dopamine is lost, symptoms of Parkinson's disease show. Dopamine levels in normal versus Parkinson's neurons. In a normal neuron, there is a substantial amount of dopamine produced. In order for your basal ganglia to function at peak efficiency, it relies on the secretion of specific amounts of dopamine from neighboring neurons. When not enough dopamine reaches the basal ganglia, voluntary motions may become delayed or uncoordinated. Means of inheritance. There are two ways Parkinson's can be inherited: autosomal dominance, where only one parent needs to pass off the gene, and autosomal recessive, where both parents need to pass the gene.
Causes of Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's has not typically been considered to be a genetic disease. The majority of cases are called idiopathic, which means that we don't know what caused the disease. Only about 10% of Parkinson's cases have been linked to a genetic cause. There are a handful of genes associated with Parkinson's. Chromosome 1, there is a mutation in PARC7 gene which makes the DJ1 protein. DJ1 helps regulate gene activity and protect cells from oxidative stress. This mutation is autosomal recessive gene. Chromosome 4, a mutation of the alpha-synuclein gene which helps regulate the release of dopamine. This is an autosomal dominant gene. Chromosome 6, a mutated copy in PARC2 gene which makes protein Parkin. which gets rid of excess and damaged proteins. There are several different types of mutations associated with this particular gene. This is an autosomal recessive gene. Chromosome 12, a mutation in LRRK2 gene, which makes the DAR-DARN, which is involved in protein-to-protein interactions. In most common gene mutations with Parkinson's disease, this is an autosomal dominant gene. Symptoms of Parkinson's disease. 4 main movement signs of Parkinson's disease. Tremors. People with Parkinson's have resting tremors, which means that their body shakes significantly more when they attempt to perform an action, such as lifting a glass of water. Rigidity. Stiff muscles causing jerking movements called cogwheel rigidity. Slowed movement, also called as bradiokinesia, may feel like weakness, fatigue, or a general feeling of not being able to move body parts. Postural instability. People feel unstable and unbalanced. Typically occurs later in the disease. Works cited. Here's all the sources that we used.